So Black Bag is kind of the complete opposite of a James Bond film. It's a British spy thriller, but it's got no gadgets, no exotic locations, no clear villain, but it is brilliant. The movie follows Michael Fassbender as a top spy, and he's given the task of finding a mole within the intelligence services. He's given a list of 5 potential suspects. The complication is that one of them is his wife. What I loved about Black Bag is that it has a very clear and simple premise. Whenever you work in the intelligence services, how can you trust your spouse? You can't date anyone on the outside because there's no way any reasonable person would put up with the fact that you have to disappear for days or weeks on end without any explanation. And you can't really date anyone on the inside because you're lying to them and you know they're lying to you. And I think what makes this film doubly interesting is that the most famous British spy of all time, James Bond, is the consummate bachelor. For the most part in those movies, their relationships are totally disposable. They're short-term affairs and you know that they're never going to see each other again after the mission. And that's kind of become our de facto image of the British spy. Whereas Black Bag takes the complete opposite approach, where for the characters in this movie, monogamy is the aspiration. And so Black Bag strips everything way back. Instead of focusing on gadgets or car chases, it just wrestles with that one central question. When you and your partner's entire professional life is based around deception, how can you trust each other? And the question of relationships to this is so central that almost no character is introduced without some sort of romantic connection to another character. With that approach, it's definitely a much more grounded spy film, but that doesn't mean it's totally realistic either. I think it does a really good job of managing that balance. You know, they bring together the ensemble of spies right at the beginning, and it's real joy just to try and watch them all to figure out who's telling the truth, who's lying about what. Michael Fassbender's character is the epitome of calm and collected. Absolutely nothing seems to faze him. And so then that makes it even more shocking when he really does start to panic and he's put under pressure. Cate Blanchett is also fantastic as always. I think she's very good at playing characters who lie. You never really know if that's what her character wants you to think or if that's what she's actually thinking and feeling. And part of why it can be hard to tell is because the movie feels no obligation to give you too much context or to bring you right up to speed. You're kind of just thrown into the deep end and have to figure certain things out for yourself, which I really loved. You know, you're never spoon-fed information. And that's the great advantage of mystery films. You don't mind being a little bit confused, and in fact, that's part of the fun, the fact that every scene has a question mark over it. And it has the added benefit of keeping everything really, really lean. There is absolutely no fat on this film. It is a crisp 90 minutes, and it's just a delight to have a film that's so efficient with its storytelling. If there's any flaws for me, I would just love to see Steven Soderbergh work with an external cinematographer. If you're not aware, the director Steven Soderbergh has worked as his own cinematographer for the last 25 years under the pseudonym Peter Andrews. And he does a great job. It's a very slick looking movie, but again, for a director who's so interested in experimenting with different genres and different types of movies, I think that is the one thing I would love to see what would happen if he was working with someone else to light his films. Again, Soderbergh is a very functional and efficient filmmaker. You know, maybe the fact that he's able to do it himself is part of how he's able to make so many films. He doesn't have to get bogged down with conversations with another collaborator, but I still would really love to see what working with someone else would bring to his movies. The other thing that's really weird to me is the fact that this movie has a reported budget of $50 million. Obviously, this movie has some big names in here. We've got Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett, Pierce Brosnan. Even with that, I still don't understand how it costs so much. Like, there's very few locations, there isn't really any action scenes. You just think when something like Baby Driver, for example, that was a film that cost $44 million adjusted for inflation, and it has great big stars, it has action set pieces, and it has licensed music. And yet, you know, Black Bag just sort of has the stars but none of the other parts, and yet still costs more. I'm just surprised that it got funded in this day and age at that budget level, and unfortunately I don't think it's going to be much of a hit because my Friday night screening of it was almost empty, which is a damn shame because I really love this movie. Again, any film that has a mystery is obviously going to have, you know, secrets buried at the start, and I am keen to go see it again and see what else I can pick up. If you haven't seen Black Bag, I'd really recommend it. It's a really low-key, lean spy thriller. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you want to make sure that you don't miss anything coming up on the channel, make sure to subscribe.